Thanks, Manish. Great to be here. It's nice to be in front of a group of developers. Again, used to do that quite often back in the olden days. Most of you were probably still in grade school when I used to do that. I got my, I know it's Warriors country up here and playoff time there, but this is the hockey tradition to grow a beard. So this is not my usual outfit, but I also wanted to look homeless up here. So anyhow, lots to talk about. I only get 20 minutes, and I want to get you all back on schedule and keep you on schedule. So I'm going to race through a bunch of ideas, maybe just to kind of open the conversation, be a little controversial. I named my first son Maverick, so I'm sort of into that. They wanted me to talk about like what I learned, like tell them about all your mistakes. Nice, thank you. That's how I want to be remembered. I will talk to you about some of the things that were very, very valuable and lessons that were very, very valuable to learn. And one thing I learned is that I was a good capitalist at Sun doing open source. And we shared. We used to, you know, that was kind of our tagline is we share. We allow people to share in our success. And we probably open sourced as much as 80% of the R&D that we did at Sun Microsystems, from the microprocessor all the way through everything, which was pretty stunning given that we were about number 40 in the worldwide R&D spending rankings, all industries, pharmaceuticals, aerospace, technology, whatever, and we were open sourcing that. Then some guy in fact, the guy who built this pier with the America's Cup bought our company, and I lasted about 2 days there, but they had a chairman with a bigger boat than me, a faster boat than me, so Oracle does not have the sharing gene. That's recessive or maybe even missing. It was always the biggest disappointment to me of leaving Sun was that we were, I mean, to be a little Al Gore-ish, we sort of invented open source at Sun, and I could probably back that up pretty aggressively if those of you want to have that conversation. But all of a sudden, the leader of the open source parade went away. And one of the challenges now is that the open source world is bigger than ever before, but there's no benevolent steward leading the way out there. I mean, who is pulling together open source from microprocessors all the way through cloud, whatever, and being the spokesmodel for it? It's sort of missing right now, and I feel badly about that. But I left the job and the role to go raise my boys, who were 2, 4, 6, and 8 at the time. And let me tell you, primal instincts, I think, overrode my global benevolence to lead that parade. But I think the one aspect about open source that I think is the most underplayed is the zero barrier to exit, the ability to keep you from getting locked in as a customer. And I think that's the one that gets least played because companies don't want to talk about their product being easy to leave. But it's pretty easy to leave a Ford and go to a Chevy, and it's going to get really easy to leave a Chevy and go to Uber as we move forward. And barriers to exit really exist. Wherever you see a trillionaire, you'll know there's a large barrier to exit. And I think capitalism is all about not letting the government mandate fairness, but letting the invisible hand mandate fairness, and zero barriers to exit drive that. The second thing I will share with you, and my interest here is, real quickly, is that I care about databases or data structure stores or where you put data, because we moved to the information age, obviously, away from the chip age and the PC age and even the phone age and all the rest of it. It's all about data. And I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for the huge mistake we made in 1982 when we started Sun. If I had just started a little 3 or 4 person open source database project and bundled it with SunOS and Solaris and continued over the years to take contributions and build it and grow it and all the rest of it, we wouldn't have ended up in the situation where Solaris only had one database that really mattered, and that was Oracle. And Oracle overcharged on Sun undercharged on IBM and Microsoft because they had their own databases. So I ended up basically getting, having to put out huge discounts for our hardware to compete against the package of hardware, operating systems, and databases against Microsoft and IBM running Oracle. So Larry actually squeezed profits out of Sun, got the stock price down, and then bought the thing for a song because we didn't own a database. It was our Achilles leg. It wasn't even a heel. I mean, it was a big issue. So databases do matter, and I sort of got that little history lesson the hard way. Actually, the good way. I got to raise my 4 boys, which I wouldn't trade for anything. That's rationalization right there. Community matters, and Manish, you're doing the right thing, putting this thing together. At one point, Java 1 was the largest developer conference in the world. And we would rent San Francisco out, and I think maybe some of you may have actually attended a Java 1 conference. I don't even know if they do it anymore. It's probably all part of Oracle Open Universe or whatever they have. But this is the right way to go do it. Get everybody together, get everybody to commune in a positive way. Platforms win. And platforms require a large developer community. And developers are the ones that are really calling the shots right now. It's not CIOs, it's not CEOs, it's not architects. It's basically you all downloading free and open source code, writing an application, and then walking into the boss and say, here it is. This is our architecture, whether you like it or not. And that started happening a long time ago with Linux and with Java, and it continues on. And Redis has certainly knocked the cover off the ball. If you look at the download numbers, I'm not going to get into all that or I'll look like an advisor. By the way, my role is advisory. I should be full disclosure. I'm an advisor for, I don't even know if I get paid. But I do this because I care about open source, I care about choice, I care about the community that's building the next generation technology. And my wife married me for better or for worse and not lunch, so I have to be out doing something. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm pretty excited about the platform aspects of this product and the very large community that's getting built here. And congratulations to all of you for being here. Now, I think Java is one of the better and more interesting and least copied models in the community development world, in the open source world. And again, this gets back to the fact that we don't seem to have anymore a leader of the open source parade. But we did a lot of things right with Java. It was great technology. James Gosling took a lot of stuff that was out there. Very little was new in Java. It was basically taking a lot of words and creating a unique novel. A lot of words that existed, but so we did object-oriented and no pointers, and we did class libraries that were very well organized. In fact, there's still a lawsuit going on between Google and Oracle about whether that's copyrightable or real IP. I was on the side of arguing that there was real IP. I found myself arguing on Oracle's side that IP is protectable, yet I'm probably the most avid open sourcer in the world. I just think people ought to have a choice. So anyhow, we did a lot of good things. We were multi-platform. We had no viruses. I would always challenge everybody, name a Java virus, and I got through most of my career, all of my career, without anybody ever able to point to it. Anything that was a virus was a bug and should have been patched. But the beauty of open source is that everybody sees it, so you find where the holes are and where the viruses can happen. The really unique aspect that nobody has really picked up on was the Java community process. And that was a situation where we basically brought competitors and partners together to create new versions, new implementations, new enhancements, new features, or whatever of the Java platform. And the Java community process was fairly well defined. In fact, it was in an excruciating detail was defined so that everybody knew how Java Card for the smart card, or Java ME for the phone, or Java SE for the desktop, or Java EE for the enterprise server environment, how it was created. And very simply, the process was that Sun would call together, let's just talk about Java Enterprise. We brought IBM, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, and a bunch of companies together and said, we need Java for the server. So we put a group of 6 or 7 major corporations together who brought engineers to the team, and then we assigned one of them to be the lead, because you always need a leader, and it typically wasn't Sun. And we all put our engineers together, and then they jointly created the Java Enterprise Edition code. And they created the Java test compatibility, JCK, Java Compatibility Kit, to test to make sure that everybody's J2EE was compatible. Then they put all that technology together. We tested it with interoperability with Java Card as a subset and Java SE as all the rest of it. And then we took all of that code together, we bundled it up, put it together, and put the Java logo on it and the Java license on it. And then we actually charged the companies that created it money back to run what we called, the Java community process, a very small number, and we gave it all back to them at the same time. So nobody got a head start. Nobody got better pricing. Nobody had different terms and conditions. And everybody would then use the community-developed J2EE and launch products at the same time with the Java logo, knowing that it was Java compatible. And then we would do things like sue companies if they didn't follow the compatibility. And we actually had the largest antitrust settlement with a small PC company in the Pacific Northwest when they went and launched Java that wasn't compatible. Now you see a bigger lawsuit going on between Oracle and Google about what is the rightful allowances within the licenses of the Java model today with respect to Android. But that JCP was a very powerful method, and we went from 0 to what was then a big number, 1 billion Java devices across everything, faster than it had ever been done before. And when Oracle bought us, the JCP idea, I think, has sort of kind of gone away because that's sharing 101. But nobody else has grabbed that, and I would encourage the industry to look at that model and try and figure out how to resurrect it. But you need a big R&D spender to kind of drive that and be the benevolent steward of that process. People always got nervous about us because they thought we could cheat, but we didn't. And nobody's ever been able to identify any opportunity of when we cheated on the process. And in fact, it costs us money to go run that process. So just some more ideas for you to think about. And open source has a new challenge, and Ofer and I were talking about this, and that is, back in the old days, we actually invented a license to keep people from using it commercially without contributing back. And we've got some very capitalist actors using open source internally, but not contributing back, and certainly not being open with their interfaces and APIs and locking people in. I would say that Apple is very proprietary, and they use a ton of open source. The barrier to exit from Apple is very high. I would say AWS uses lots of open source and doesn't necessarily contribute to the level of they're pretty close to $1 trillion value company. They could share a little bit, but that would be being a good capitalist, not the great capitalist that they are. Facebook is another example of a company that uses massive amounts of open source. I'm not sure how much they contribute, and they certainly lock you in I'm still trying to figure out how to get my data that they have on me. You know, you go in and you send them, they're supposed to send me an email. I requested it a couple of weeks ago. I haven't gotten it back. So this is the big challenge of open source in the cloud world. Cloud vendors just using it and not contributing back, and certainly not opening up the interfaces and creating those barriers to exit that make them very successful. Next point I will tell you is that shift happens, and happens very quickly. Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. Actually, once you're the bug. You can be the windshield many times, but typically the bug only has one chance to be the bug. And I always am surprised at how people think that it's over. When AOL launched mail, for the really old timers in here, everybody thought "You've Got Mail" was going to be what you heard every time you clicked on your mail icon. How many of you have an AOL email account right now? Nobody's. If somebody did, they'd be too embarrassed to raise their hand. You know, when we started Sun, it was Informix, Sybase, and Oracle were the big three databases. And then there was DB2, and Microsoft had one. What was it called? SQL Server. SQL Server. So look at the database world now. I mean, it's exploding with all kinds of new areas and energies and new phrases in memory and key value store and microservices, cloud-based fog, IoT, all of the things that databases have to think about now. And there are things that are driving this that are hard to incorporate in your thinking, but are absolutely happening at stunning rates of change, and that's the network speed. The cost is, I think Eric Schmidt, my old CTO at Sun, used to say, assume the network was free. And that's sort of been the Google assumption all along, is to assume the network is free. And if you're doing database technology, you sort of have to assume the network is free, that it's going to be fast and free and pervasive. I can't even get on an airplane now without the network following me. That used to be my one great haven to sleep. Moore's Law obviously continues to truck along. And there's going to be another impact that I want you all to think about, and that is the government is going to get involved now. Facebook changed all of that. Now, if I'd have been Zuckerberg, or if I'd been counseling him and he'd asked me, I would have told him, don't go. You didn't do anything wrong. You know, if the service is free, you're not the customer, you're the product. It was blindingly obvious that they were using your data because their revenue was all advertising. So what do you think they were doing? Like getting your data and selling advertising for big bags of money without using your data? I mean, what is the government, what are the morons in Washington thinking was happening? And by the way, Cambridge Analytics ought to be brought in because they were the ones that breached the contract, not Facebook. So I wouldn't have gone. But if I did go, I would have told Zuckerberg, do this. Thank you. I'm happy to be here in front of Congress and Senate and all you folks. Let me tell you one thing. There is a privacy issue. There is a security and privacy and a safety issue and a quality of life issue around data privacy. And there's one and only one organization that we ought to be scared about having our data. And it isn't a private sector company. It is you, the government. I'm scared to death of you having my money. Because you can do an IRS audit or prevent me from getting a nonprofit status. You can do a FISA warrant on me. You can decide whether or not my kid gets a student loan or gets into a government-sponsored school. You can decide what health care I get. That scares me to death. Facebook can do no harm. Seriously, think about it compared to what the government can do. And I would have said, this is the crooks yelling criminal. And then I would have gotten up and walked off stage. Wouldn't that have been fun? But anyhow, there's a thing coming called GDPR. And you ought to study it because the crooks are coming after you and trying to criminalize your gathering of data. And you're the repository for that. And these companies are scared to death. I think it's like May 1st it goes into effect or something. And there's like penalties of, what's that? May 25th? Okay. So soon, before you all can fix anything, basically. I remember Y2K was a big pick, but this is a real one because they charge like a percentage of your revenue, not a percentage of your profits. This is a big number, like way more than, so you'll like lose money if you get fined on this thing. And the government regulators are coming at the data business in a big time way. And I think the Redis community, if you could figure out how to help companies handle the GDPR regulations, you can probably make a lot of money or become a hero with your boss who will make a lot of money. That's the other key area. So those are basically the lessons, learnings, and perspectives that I have. I think the call to action for all of you is let's get the community organized for new licensing models in the cloud and fog and IoT era, because we want there to be regular and aggressive community involvement and return on that community investment, and not folks who are just taking and not giving. We created a license at Sun back when almost all the software in the world was on-premise and sold in a license from one company to another in enterprise to enterprise way, called CDDL, and it was I don't remember what CDDL stands, Common Development blah 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 license. The idea behind that was you could use Sun open source as long as you didn't try to make money on it. And so it was it wasn't the full-blown, full-on license. But given that we were spending $2 billion a year on R&D, we wanted some return on that, and we didn't have a license, an advertising model like Facebook. So this license said that if you used it for research, for educational purposes, for nonprofit purposes, for development, prototyping, all the rest of it, you could use it for free. But the second you went out and started selling product using that technology, you had to come and negotiate a commercial license from Sun, given that that was our created IP. So it was free and open until you tried to become a capitalist with it. And we sort of need that model, some sort of a model. We need CDDL for the cloud to make sure that all of the R&D, because you all want, how many of you want to just like work for free and never get paid? Yes, same as the AOL users in the room, right? So revenue is not a bad thing, even in the open source world, but we need CDDL for the cloud. So one call to action is, and I'm assigning Ofer as the leader of this parade right now, for better or for worse. He can delegate to somebody else if he's busy, but I think he would be a great guy to have everybody at least, I know they're working on it inside of Redis Labs to try and come up with some proper models, because licensing in the open source community has to contemplate fog, IoT, the cloud, and everything new that's happening there. Secondly, Manish told me to say this, you all ought to consider Redis for your database environment and Redis for your data structure store for all of your AI algorithms, and I certainly agree with that in my highly paid position as advisor. And then finally, this is something I say to a lot of groups: to those whom much is given, much is expected. And you all are very talented. You're on the right issue. You're in the right place. You're in a very amazing moment in time around what's happening in the big data world with all of the pieces that I've already mentioned. So my message to you is work hard, try hard, keep going. You're in a very, very important position, and thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the Redis community and doing the good work and the great work that you are doing as part of this community. So thanks for your time, good luck, and enjoy the rest of the